We need a good libertarian or a good anarcho-capitalist to win an Oscar and be like, we need to end the Federal Reserve today. Okay, it's Saturday, February 15th, 2020. We're going to run through a couple of our normal segments here. You'll never be woke enough. We're going to talk about Joachin Phoenix's bizarre speech at the Oscars. Meanwhile, back in Athens, that's when we talk about some of the things happening here in our hometown, but that have broader implications.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about a property tax referendum and the larger issues having to do with property taxes in general, and whether or not they're ethical. The VSG Unleashed, we're going to talk about Mr. Donald Trump's behavior since his acquittal, and no room for moderates. We're going to talk about Bernie Sanders' rise as the top contender for the Democrats.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back to the Libation Station. Pull up a chair and pour yourself something bracing. We do this fortnightly and forthrightly. And we always have something. If it's closer to evening time, sometimes it's something spirituous, like a Kentucky Bourbon Manhattan or a vodka tonic or something. But usually we're doing this in the middle of the day so that we have something more like this. And Clyde often stops by the store to pick this stuff up, and he's just got a real eye for interesting beverages. What do we got here today?
Yeah, so this is, I guess you pronounce it B-A-I, Bubbles, Sparkling Antioxidant Infusion, Jamaican Blood Orange flavor. 1 gram of sugar in the whole bottle or whole can. And it's quite sweet, though.
With just a bit of schwang to it too.
Yeah. It's bracing.
Yeah,
bracing enough anyway.
But you pour yourself up something bracing and join us here at the Libation Station, and we shall examine the issues of the day.
Yes.
This is episode 4, season 2. We've been at this a while, and for those who are long-time listeners / viewers, welcome back. We hope the plan is that there are new folks joining us all the time, right. And just a bit of orientation. Clyde is a libertarian, and I'm a conservative. We both agree that human freedom is the essential condition for human flourishing, for human well-being. And
that society at large is better off when the individual is free.
Exactly.
Free to choose.
You bet, yeah. People are happier and society is healthier. And there's a lot of Venn diagram overlap there, but there's some stuff outside it. Foreign policy is often where that happens. I'm conservative that I am. I'm kind of a stickler for tradition, and so I'm cultural or social conservative, if you will.
Yeah.
But and whereas you're more inclined, hey man, whatever your neighbor's doing, if it's not harming you, it's none of your business.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I don't know. I might be a little bit conservative. I might think that maybe society runs better under certain moral choices that one might make. I certainly think that there are many things that I don't think should be illegal, that I don't necessarily think are wise or moral or whatever. Yeah. I think you should live your life, and it's not ethical for me to tell you not to live your life in whatever way that is. Might be harmful for you, but if you're the only victim, then
I can kind of see that. People ought to be free to choose to be foolish.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Well, by the way, I like this stuff the more I drink it.
It's pretty nice.
And we do generally 4 segments each episode, and we've got a number of them that we rotate. Any one of them might make an appearance on any given episode.
Yeah.
This first one, we often do.
I love this one. It's one of my favorite segments.
We often do the "You'll Never Be Woke Enough" segment. And this time out, we're going to look at Joachin Phoenix's bizarre speech at the Oscars this year. Joachin Phoenix was up for awards for his portrayal of the Joker. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen it. I guess he did quite a great job.
It looked like he did. I haven't seen it either, but he's a talented guy. I really think he's an excellent actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this speech, he starts out okay. I kind of like that he says, "Hi, God." First of all, he says, "Hi, what's up?" And then his second sentence is, "Hi, God. I'm so full of much gratitude right now. I'm full of so much gratitude right now, and I don't feel elevated above any of my fellow nominees or anyone in this room because we share the same love, the love of film." And that's all very nice. But then he's got to get into we have the opportunity to use our voice for the voiceless. Correct me if I'm wrong, but at Academy Awards ceremonies in the 1940s, did people like Jimmy Stewart and Clark Gable and Betty Davis start into stuff about the voiceless?
And is that
I think they kept it on the level of their profession, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that even what the voiceless needs or wants?
Yeah, some movie star.
The elites.
Exactly.
Society's highest elites.
Exactly.
To pretend to give a shit about them?
Exactly. So he starts kind of hinting where he's going to be going. I've been thinking a lot about some distressing issues that we're facing collectively, and I think at times we feel or be made to feel that the need to champion different causes. For me, I see commonality. Then here we go.
Here's where it gets fun.
He does a whole paragraph on, and this was pretty predictable, that the identity politics thing. I think whether we're talking about gender inequality or racism or queer rights. By the way, I understand what being gay is. Homosexual. It's having the same sort of attractions to someone of your own gender that most people have of the opposite gender.
We can draw a couple diagrams if you need.
Yeah, okay.
Get the dog.
But I've never completely understood the difference between gay and queer. I suppose there are lots of dissertations on it on the internet I could look up, but and maybe I will someday. But
time is finite.
Exactly, yeah.
And the goalpost keeps moving. So by the time you figure out what it means today, it's going to change.
I have a feeling that's true. And racism or queer rights or indigenous rights or animal rights. That animal rights is a term that kind of sticks in my craw. Animals, bless their hearts, that's the great appeal of my pet cats. Which you guys around here anywhere? Herbie,
I haven't seen him.
Hobbs, I mean, Herbie was our older cat. Hobbs or Lucy, I guess not. But the appeal of having someone like that in your family is their utter innocence, and they're totally dependent on you, and they have no decision making powers. Hence, they can't have any rights. They don't have the power of making choices and rational thought. Their preciousness is precisely because they need you for everything.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway,
I see where you're going with that, but
I don't want to digress on that too much. But
even people who I don't know, think animals are property or whatever, and you can do whatever you want with animals, I guess.
Yeah.
I think most people would draw the line, so you can't torture animals. You can't go out of your way to be cruel, or shouldn't go out of your way to be cruel to animals.
Yeah, that's why we have laws about it.
So, but Joaquin thinks that there's that producing milk is that kind of cruelty.
Yeah, which I think that's what he's telegraphing that he's going to go into here, because whether we're talking about indigenous rights or animal rights or the fight against injustice, the belief that one nation, one race, one gender or species has the right to dominate, control, and use and exploit another with impunity. Then he goes off into cows here. I think that we've become very disconnected from the natural world, and many of us, what we're guilty of is an egocentric worldview, the belief that we're the center of the universe. I don't know, once again, here I go, I happen to believe, as a Christian, that Genesis is an allegory, the whole business about Adam and Eve and God gave man dominion. But it's that dominion thing is anyway. The belief that we're the center of the universe. We go into the natural world and we plunder it for its resources. We feel entitled to artificially inseminate a cow, and when she gives birth, we steal her baby. And though her cries of anguish are unmistakable. And then we take her milk that's intended for her calf and we put it in our coffee and on our cereal. Joaquin, buddy, there's plenty of milk to go around for the calves and all of us humans.
Did he walk around on a farm and witness this? Like, is this?
Yeah.
Is he boots on the ground in this scenario? He's familiar with farming methods.
Yeah.
Because something tells me he didn't watch a calf be taken from its mother and its mother wept. I find that hard to believe.
Let alone talk to any agriculture professors at Purdue or anything, that might kind of enlighten him on the fact that doing all this stuff humanely is a big deal to the agriculture community.
Yeah.
Anyway, the argument can be made, hey, didn't you see the ratings were dismal for it? Hardly anybody watched it. And that's been true of most awards shows for some time now.
This
I know.
Is why they're horrible.
Right.
No one cares.
But these people, it's just the fact that they use their high profile, their platform, getting recognized for doing good acting work or directing work or something, to launch into this stuff.
To get up in front of a bunch of like-minded people and say the safest possible things they could say.
And it boils down to something we've discussed on this show before. It's all about self-congratulation.
Yeah.
I care.
Right.
I care so much. I'll bet I care more than you.
We need a good libertarian or a good anarcho-capitalist to win an Oscar and be like, we need to end the Federal Reserve today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't need to impeach the president. We need to impeach the presidency.
Really. Free your kids' minds. Let's dismantle the Department of Education.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Using your 45 seconds to say we have to, take out the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Education, Ron Paul's Big Five.
So. Yeah. All right. It's just, the preening, the self-congratulation is just, and it sets up, when you go that way, you set up backlash. There will be people that will do stuff on social media to own the libs. Hey, look how completely politically incorrect I can be, and ha ha ha.
Here's the thing, though. There's always this talking down to everyone about all that's wrong with the world. It's like, okay, fine, got it, right? World's pretty messed up, right? There's cows, too many cows, and the cow farts make climate change. Okay, got it. And maybe we should treat the cows better. Okay, got that too. How about some practical solutions, Joaquin?
Yeah.
What can we? What are the facts? What exactly is the problem? How are we quantifying it? And what do we do with it? And how do we measure our results?
Well,
and if you don't have that, shut up.
Yeah, there's sort of I think Joaquin, or maybe or his ilk would say, a lot of research has been done on how you can get the same nutrients out of other substances besides cow's milk. Well, what are you going to do? Make me choose that?
Right.
You're going to use the power of government to make me choose that instead of dairy products?
Right. They would. They absolutely would.
That's another thing. That's where all this is headed. I think government ought to make us do things or make us not do things.
Bloomberg, with his big sodas,
Absolutely.
Make big sodas illegal. Yeah, okay, soda's bad for you, but for crying out loud, man,
apropos of what we were saying a little while ago, a human being ought to be free to choose to be foolish.
That's right. And isn't it great that we live in modern times and problems are so rare that we can talk about this?
I know.
That this is the issue.
Yeah.
That dairy farming is the biggest issue on Joaquin Phoenix's mind.
Yeah.
Because life is pretty damn good.
Yeah. So, where we stand?
We're about 13 minutes right now.
All right.
So.
You got any?
Yeah. Well, I just don't think. We can move on, but Joaquin Phoenix. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Well, yeah, I hear he's kind of an asshole, but.
By his own admission, he says, "I've been a scoundrel in my life. I've been selfish and cruel and hard to work with."
People talk about him backstage being just a pain, but I don't know him, and I'm not going to judge him. But I clearly see by his language that he does not know, how if the world was vegan tomorrow, how that would impact the world. He doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be an improvement, but you don't know. You don't really know that. And if you were, if you love animals so much, why you eat all their friggin' food?
Okay. Well, our next segment is called Meanwhile Back in Athens, and that's because there was an article about our city in a national magazine back in the 1960s that, like so much of the national press we've ever gotten, was about how we're an architectural showcase. A lot of big names in mid-century modernist architecture. I.M. Pei and Eilil Saarinen and Harry Weiss and so forth have buildings here. And this article called us the Athens of the Prairie, and that kind of stuck. And meanwhile, back in Athens is what we call this segment, and we find some local development that's got broader implications and kick all that around. Right now, our local school board has the school superintendent gave a impassioned presentation to the board about how retention is terrible. We're losing teachers every year, and a lot of them have to take second jobs and blah blah blah. And
he's not wrong.
We can't maintain a modernized fleet of buses and do all the safety things that we want to do for our kids and all that stuff. Bring in the number of school resource officers that we want to. So, and there's a property tax cap at the state level. So if we want to, and we've searched everywhere to try to find the money to do this, but there doesn't seem to be any other solution than to increase local property taxes. And so we want to see a referendum about that on the primary ballot, May 5th, where one of the things, along with your favorite candidates, you'll vote for or against this referendum, and raise property taxes to bring in additional revenue to hire and retain teachers and do these other things.
Yeah, and it's probably going to work out to be a couple $100 a year.
Right. It's not. Yeah. It's not going to break anybody's bank, but it's the principle of the thing. Yeah. Yeah. Which you're
okay. So the principle of the thing. I already got to thinking about this and about property taxes and it's easy to say taxation is theft or some of these cliches that get thrown out, but like I really got to thinking about property taxes and how it's just rent. If you don't pay it, they throw you out. You can own your property, but they can still throw you off of it and seize it.
I've never really thought of it that way.
So you don't. It's impossible to own property. You are renting property
even
from the
if
state.
you've paid your mortgage off. You're still renting from the government.
Right. You're renting from the government.
Yeah.
Murray Rothbard, one of the sort of founders of modern libertarianism. I think. He had written, I think maybe for the Mises Institute, or it might have been where I saw the article. But anyway, he had said that all rights are property rights, right? There's no rights without property rights. That you have yourself, you have a right to your self ownership, self sovereignty, and you own your body and you own your speech and all that kind of stuff. And anytime that any of that's infringed, it's a property rights issue. And if you don't pay your property taxes, they'll take your property from you to fund whatever they want, whether it's moral or not. So, when they take that money, even if you don't own like land, if you don't pay your taxes, they will take all of your property from you, your car or your stuff in your apartment or whatever you own, whatever assets you have, and they'll auction it off, because they will take their money. So first of all, I'm making the claim now that private property in the United States doesn't exist, or at least here in Indiana where we live, private property doesn't exist, and property taxes completely and totally immoral.
And which is why I often refer to taxation as seizing your money at gunpoint. And when I'd have tussles with left-leaning people that now I've paid paid what it says I owe on my 1040 every year, and I've never felt like I was coerced at gunpoint. Well, that's because you were willing to pay it.
Right.
Ever try 1 year not paying it, and the trouble you get in increases by degree quite fast, and it comes eventually down to...
Right.
Yeah, and so I used to think, these people sort of have a point. That's kind of a bonehead way to put it. Might make you look like a crank. No, I've thought about it some more, and I think because it's true. That's why.
And it's a good example when you say that government is force, or
It has a monopoly on the legitimate use of force.
taxation is removal of your property by gunpoint. The property tax one is a really good example of that, because do that. Don't pay your property taxes, and they will show up, literally, with a man with a gun to remove you from the property. You know what I mean? And if you don't go willingly, he will use that gun. So, I mean, I don't see how you can call this anything but theft. I don't see how you can call it anything but force.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I don't have any problem paying into the schools and that kind of stuff. I think people would do that voluntarily also, but you know, I don't have a problem with funding schools, but I do have a problem telling someone else that they have to fund the school that my kid goes to, or we'll send a man with a gun to his house to take his house away from him.
I think I might be at least as libertarian on this as you. I'm one of those the money should follow the child kind of thing.
Yeah.
For instance, Corey DeAngelis, who is a libertarian I follow on Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he somebody the other day was he responded to a tweet by somebody that said, guys like you would be willing to destroy public schools in the name of choice, or in the name of for-profit organizations. And he said, it's kind of like. I am not destroying Whole Foods if I choose to go to Trader Joe's instead.
Right. What happens to Trader Joe, or what happens to Whole Foods, is no longer my concern. I don't care.
Exactly.
Because I have choice.
And then sometimes they come back, the lefties come back from that one and say, well, education's a common good like roads, and no, I mean it's you can't compare. That's not an apples to apples comparison.
Well, you know,
yeah,
we got to have the roads conversation one of these days, because I don't really think it's a common good either. But
what's the fellow's Eric
July?
Yeah, Eric July. Yeah. There's a wonderful
we'll put some of that
takedown of the whole road.
Let's have a whole road show.
All right,
road show. That's funny.
Yeah,
but as far as I just said I think people would fund education voluntarily, but I have an example that is going to make me a liar, because I had made one of those GoFundMe things to pay teachers more. Right, my goal was raise $1 million.
Okay.
And then
did you set up the account?
I set everything up.
Okay.
And I publicized it and stuff on social media. So the goal was, if you think teachers should make more money, give it to them, right? Just give them money.
Yeah.
Put money into this GoFundMe, and every teacher in Bartholomew County, if we hit our goal, will get like $1,000, right? Like every single teacher, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Good teachers, bad teachers, everywhere. If you teach a class in a public school in the county, you get $1,000.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, people didn't ever donate to it.
Every time I saw
that, every time I saw that claim, teachers aren't getting paid enough. Okay, here's a link. Pay them more.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do it.
People would rather be coerced at gunpoint than they'd rather have the government force them to do it than do it voluntarily over something they feel strongly about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's necessary for society, so let's put some resources into it. And the problem with, public education, and again, I'm not trying to bash public schools, especially around here. There are very good public schools and there are very bad public schools, and that's the point. Is that it's not consistent, and if you're trying to make the claim that public school is the only method to make sure that no one's left behind, well, that's not working.
Yeah,
the kids are left behind now.
Yeah,
right. So don't buy that argument.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's going to be interesting. We may have reason to revisit this as winter turns into spring, because there's going to be a lot of conversation in our community between now and May 5th.
Right. And again, so if it's terribly inefficient and they can't seem to keep it funded, I mean, this little nudge is not going to make the difference.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm all for more funding, but this isn't. We're going to be back here again in a couple of years.
Yes.
Wondering how we sent this money through the wood chipper.
Exactly. You're exactly right about that. Well, what are we? How are we doing time?
We're running a little ahead of schedule, which is
all right.
Which is good.
Yes, it is, because Clyde here has permitted me to kind of go on a rant for segment 3.
This is all. This is for me.
The VSG Unleashed. I've never been a fence sitter about Donald Trump. It wasn't like, well, that's an interesting development. That he's sure going to be a unprecedented factor in this 2016 primary race. Ought to be interesting to watch. No, I thought the guy was a disgusting, arrogant, bombastic narcissist, going clear back to when he first came on the national scene with his first book, The Art of the Deal, and at that point we all just kind of, boy, that guy's a real aggressive New York operator on the real estate scene. But it wasn't long before scandals started to erupt, some bankruptcies, failed business ventures like Trump Steaks, Trump Vodka, Trump Airline, and all that stuff, and then a couple of divorces, Trump, and his affairs became public, and bragging to Howard Stern about it on Stern's radio show, and to Billy Bush on the Access Hollywood, and all that good stuff. And I mean, the guy's just been a real and he's been all over the map ideology wise and position wise and on things, for crying out loud. He's been really scattershot in his praise for public figures. In 2008, he told CNN's Wolf Blitzer that Nancy Pelosi was impressive and that he liked her a lot. You know, he even opined that she should have impeached then President George W. Bush over our invasion of Iraq. Which I
agree with him. Sure.
I kind of thought that.
I think they should impeach Donald Trump, just not over the dumb crap that they did.
Yeah, but he and then. He's called Hillary Clinton terrific on a couple of occasions, once in the context of being torn between voting for her or Rudy Giuliani for president in 2008, and again in 2012 in the context of her then recent stint as Secretary of State. And in the spring of 2015, mere weeks before he announced that he was throwing his hat in the ring, the presidential race, he had a lengthy phone conversation with Bill Clinton about, well, Bill, as you know, I've switched parties. I'm a Republican, and I know your wife's running on the Democratic ticket. I don't know if I don't know if I'd run or not, but I think I'd like to get involved in the process. And Bill's, Donald, I think you got things to offer the Republican Party, and they had this real buddy
Epstein ranch
buddy chat. Yeah,
chat it over.
There you go. I don't know, but they had a real buddy chat on the phone in the spring of 2015. There's that picture from a few years earlier of Bill and Hillary yucking it up with Donald and Melania at Donald Trump's wedding reception to her. So anyway, and we all knew this. The conservative objection to Trump got going just about at the exact same time as this enthusiasm for Trump. Just about the same time that Sean Hannity started getting all gooey in the britches, and Wayne Allen Root and Laura Ingraham and all these people started abandoning any consistent conservatism in order to get on the Trump train. In August of 2015, Thomas Sowell wrote at National Review saying the danger is not that he'll get the, and he was, of course, I think he was hoping and praying that Donald Trump wouldn't get nominated, but it did seem pretty unlikely, and a lot of people were surprised when everything came down the way it did. But anyway, Thomas Sowell said in August 2015, the danger is not that he'll get the nomination, but that his irresponsible talk will become the image of the Republican Party, and that his bombast will drown out more sober voices that need to be heard, thereby making it harder to select the best candidate.
Yeah.
I mean, Sowell was...
He's always right.
Yeah.
He's one of the wisest people
and
living, I think.
So, And we all know, and he toyed with the public for a while there in that summer. Oh, my businesses are doing so fantastic. I just don't know if I want to take the time away from them to do this or not. Blah, blah, blah. And then he finally, the descent down that escalator at Trump Tower, and we were off and running. And all the things that we know about him now became very well known. And but since his acquittal, things have gotten downright sinister in my book. Just they've taken a really dark turn.
Though? Is anyone surprised?
If I'm going to be honest with myself, I'm not.
Not surprised.
Yeah. But I mean, he has no.
Well, why don't you give us a couple examples?
Oh, okay. Well, there was the national. There were two events on about 2 days after he was acquitted, the acquittal vote. At the National Prayer Breakfast, there was a stark study in contrasts. Arthur Brooks, the former president of the American Enterprise Institute, gave the keynote address. And Arthur Brooks is a cool guy. Have I ever told you the story about...
I don't think so.
Okay, in 2013... this is just a little digression, folks, but it's a good one. In 2013, I went to the Defending the American Dream Summit put on by Americans for Prosperity, which has got a fairly libertarian... The Koch Foundation puts up a lot of the money for it and so forth. But it was held at Universal Resort in Orlando. And tons of great speakers, panel discussions, all that good stuff. Cocktail receptions in the evening and all that. But the first morning, I got up at 5 because I wanted to. I read the brochure and saw that the gym opened at 6, and I wanted to get in a workout before I started my day. And so I was making my way across the resort plaza in the dark, and I ran into this fellow, and he was headed the same way I was. So we were making small talk on our way, and I think it's over here. Yeah, and we got inside, and this guy's moving some iron. I thought, man, this guy's really, doing some serious training. And then later in the day, he was giving a talk, and that's Arthur Brooks.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He started his professional life as his first career. He was a classical French horn player.
Wow.
Yeah, and toured all over the world with symphony orchestras and stuff. But he's good buds with the Dalai Lama. I mean, he's a man of depth and humanity. And he, at his talk, and he wrote a book last year called "Love Your Enemies" about what it's really going to take for us to try to start mending our hyperpolarization in our society. And he gave a talk about extending grace and the courage to do that, and it was a wonderful talk.
And this is how libertarians apply that to foreign policy. That's what we come up with.
Okay.
Extensions of grace.
Okay. Which is a step further than I'll take that. But anyway, so he gives this wonderful talk, and the next person is, of course, the VSG, Very Stable Genius. And he struts on stage holding that day's edition of USA Today with the above-the-fold headline, "Acquitted," and prancing up and down the stage. And then he looks directly at Arthur Brooks and says, "I'm not sure I completely agree with you, Arthur, and I don't think you're going to like everything I have to say." And then he launched into attacks on and it was just a big attack fest.
Yeah.
And then later, around noon that day, he gave a talk in the East Room of the White House, and he says, "This isn't really a press conference." He says, "I don't know what it is. I guess let's call it a celebration." And then he went into some more attacks. And as I'm no prude, but I am kind of a man who sets a fair amount of store by decorum. He made a little history that day by being the first president to use the word bullshit publicly in the East Room.
Yeah.
And he, so anyway, there's that.
So we're going to idiocracy,
You bet. And then he, a couple days ago, General John Kelly, who had been Trump's chief of staff for about a year and a half, gave a talk at Drew University where he started speaking kind of candidly and saying some things like how he thought the two summits with Kim Jong-un were pointless, and how calling immigrants racist, even if you do feel strongly about illegal aliens, was no way to go about that. But then he said, and Colonel Alexander Vindman did things by the textbook. That's exactly how we train people in national security positions within the military. If you see somebody higher ranking than you doing something that alarms you, go see your immediate boss and tell them about it. And that's what he did. Anyway, so Trump then tweets and says, John Kelly, who I couldn't terminate fast enough, knew he was way in over his head, and he cannot leave anything alone. He does not understand that there's power inherent in holding back a little.
And who's way over his head? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, I don't understand what, like you said, with holding back. I don't understand why. I do understand why he doesn't just say, you know what, the Democrats have been behaving like a bunch of children. This is done. We're done with the childish.
The nation has business to conduct.
We've got work to do.
Yeah.
We got to put this behind us and get back to work. You know what I mean? And then be a grown up.
Yeah.
And just let them look stupid. You
sure.
know?
The very latest one is perhaps the most disturbing. There's a columnist for the New York Times, Peter Baker, and he's one of their token right of center guys.
Okay. Yeah.
And I haven't read the column yet, but you can tell by what I'm about to read you here that he was setting up whatever point he was going to make by making a fairly objective observation about how Trump is now invincible. And he quotes Ralph Waldo Emerson. And Trump quoted Peter Baker quoting Ralph Waldo Emerson in a tweet. Ralph Waldo Emerson seemed to foresee the lessons of the Senate impeachment trial of President Trump. When you strike at the king, Emerson famously said, you must kill him. Mr. Trump's foes struck at him but did not take him down. A triumphant Mr. Trump emerges from the biggest test of his presidency emboldened, ready to claim exoneration and take his case of grievance, persecution, and resentment to the campaign trail. Peter Baker at New York Times. The greatest witch hunt in American history. I mean, he basically called me a king, and he acknowledged that I'm emboldened. This is scary stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, you better damn believe I'm emboldened, and you
right.
You may not have any idea what I plan to do next. This stuff is getting
if I got arrested,
real dark for my taste.
If I got arrested and then the charges got dropped or I was found not guilty or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd walk around going, I got arrested but not convicted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think I think I'd want to not talk about it anymore.
Exactly. The sooner that fades into
right.
Yeah, the
right.
history,
Let people forget that there was ever a question about my character.
Exactly.
And then let's move on with life.
Exactly. Anyway, it's no secret to longtime listeners / viewers of this, or readers of my blog Late in the Day, which if you don't know about it, Late in the Day, if you Google Late in the Day Barney Quick, I blog generally daily, and at least, and sometimes several times daily, and longtime readers of my blog or Precipice, my Substack newsletter, know where I stand. I hate the term never Trumper for a couple of reasons. One, that horse is out of the barn. The guy's our president. I understand that.
Right.
But item B, it lumps everybody that either is or has been right of center who objects to Trump together, and there are gradations that I think are important, distinctions that are important to make. Anyway, but they know that I fall in that broad category. I am a three-principled conservative. I am a Reaganite conservative, and I deeply object to Donald Trump.
So how do you feel about Mitt Romney's vote and the backlash to him?
I'm not a cynic. I think he consulted his conscience, and I'm no Mormon, but I think he prayed deeply about it and probably discussed it with his wife Ann, and just he felt that the evidence was sufficient to vote the way he did. Some people say, oh, it's just sour grapes, he's bitter, and doesn't anybody remember he begged for Donald Trump's endorsement in 2012, which is more of that crap, you know. Donald Trump's always going, this person begged me for a job or begged me for an endorsement, or, you know, these are not normal times.
Yeah, these are not normal people.
No.
These are...
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Mitt Romney? Voting as he did.
I think it was the incorrect vote. I think that that the charges are kind of stupid.
Okay.
And I just think that they're baseless. I think that if that's the case, then we have to go and examine pretty much every transaction of foreign aid that's ever occurred, and remove all of the people who've been involved in it.
And it does lead to some gray areas of how are we able to parse people's motives when they're talking to a foreign leader on the phone?
Yeah,
and stuff.
well, maybe you just don't.
I see that.
Hand my tax dollars to foreign governments, especially foreign governments that are founded
to their eyeballs in corruption.
Founded out of a coup by neo-Nazis. That like the Ukraine stuff is a mess, man, and those are not. Those factions are not made up of good people, and we just handed them $1 billion, and that is insane. That's the crime. Mm-hmm. That is the crime, that any money was given to Ukraine. That is the crime.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, that's a valid viewpoint. That's the thing. The Barney and Clyde show sets an example for our culture, our nation, in terms of permitting each other to have viewpoints and saying, I can see the validity of that, even though I fall short of completely agreeing with it.
Yeah,
that's the way we roll here at BNC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And as we discussed last time, there's only 2 seats at the bar at the Libation Station.
Yeah.
But if you disagree or agree or whatever, please throw that comment on Facebook or on the YouTube comments or whatever. If you lean left or maybe you're hard leftist or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Exactly. It's easy for us to get stuck in our Venn diagram.
Yeah. You may lose us if you start into ad hominem attacks or something, but...
Right. Keep it civil.
Yeah.
Pose the question.
Keep it on the level of ideas and principles, and we'll have a conversation with you.
Sounds good.
Okay. You can even be a Bernie Sanders supporter.
That's right. I'd love to hear from some Bernie supporters.
Okay. He's... The Democratic primaries so far have been... Talk about interesting developments.
Yeah.
Biden, who was everybody's assumed shoo-in, has fallen to like 5th place, and Bernie has zoomed past fellow leftists like Elizabeth Warren, and he's zoomed past the Wonder Kid Pete Buttigieg, and he's the man of the hour.
And it's burning the collective asses of all the Democrats.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. They hate Sanders.
Yeah.
The Democratic establishment.
Are we going to
Sanders.
get stuck with an old white man? Yeah. An old white straight man for
got an old
candidate?
White lineup.
Yeah.
They got
I get a kick out of when they try to put it on the level of ideology, like, and he's such an overt socialist. Well, the others aren't quite so overt about it, but they're pretty darn socialist too.
Seriously. Yeah. Seriously. And I just remember, as a kid, listen to my right-wing dad, going, maybe we could go a little more center or whatever, but if you give the left and give the Democrats an inch, they'll take a mile, and pretty soon they'll be hawking full socialism.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, Dad, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. It's just like everything.
And here we are.
It's like he was Nostradamus.
We may be looking at Bernie versus the VSG.
I think we will be.
That is a really grim prospect.
If the DNC doesn't totally, I think they might. They're trying to cheat him out of it.
Yeah.
But it might be past their ability to accomplish that now. Mm-hmm. They might not be able to stop the Bernie train.
Now, just like I do with Donald Trump, and go way back through all the stuff that I did in that segment, I will spare no effort to make sure people know what Bernie Sanders is all about on this show, in my blog, in my newsletter, going clear back to his honeymoon in 1988 in the Soviet Union, where he sat with a bunch of communists and sang "This Land Is Your Land," which was written by the communist folk singer Woody Guthrie. And
you want to play that?
Yeah, sure. He was shirtless and drunk, by the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, party. And one side of the table starts singing a song. When they finish it, the other side has to sing their own song.
What are we gonna sing?
And as director said, added to Victor's was, today, the distinctive feature of our economy is competition.
This land was made for you and me. Let's play my walking that ribbon of highway. I saw love be
Bernie Sanders, 1988, people.
You know what's funny about
Yeah.
that is that you've got, it's the end of the Soviet Union. So the last few years, it's like
Yeah.
three years from then it collapsed.
Right.
And you could you have 20 people sitting or 10 people sitting at a table there, and probably only one real communist.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the rest of them, by that time, Soviet citizens, even if they were Communist Party members with some, high rank and stuff, they understood that the whole thing was on its way out, and they weren't all zealous about dialectical materialism and all that hooey. Hey, how much time we got left? Because
We're good. We're
okay,
yeah, we got like 15 minutes left.
I feel bad about disrupting things structurally, but there's one aspect of the Trump, the latest developments in the Trump phenomenon that I forgot to talk about, and that's his slavish devotees, the leg humpers, the throne sniffers,
right.
How they've gone into hyper attack mode in recent times. There's Judge Jeanine Pirro, who on her program on Fox News Channel, on her February 8th episode, and we were talking about Mitt Romney, she spent her entire opening monologue talking about what a disloyal scallywag he was, and how dare he, she basically shouted, and he was only thinking of himself and not his party and the president. Well, as I say, that's who he's supposed to think about. We elect these people to consult their conscience and then
Right.
vote the way their conscience tells them to. That they don't automatically vote the way their party or the party leader tells them to.
I hear a lot of people say that they should vote with their constituencies.
Yeah.
That that you represent all of us, not just the Democrats or not just the Republicans, but you represent everybody. So you got to keep everybody's in your constituency in mind, and it's interesting that you lean towards that person's personal morality, rather than the groupthink of the constituency.
And after all, in both the House and the Senate, each party has a whip who's supposed to go around and gather up votes and make sure everybody's getting in line. That's true. And the other one, Lou Dobbs, who has just become a disgustingly slavish devotee, on his show on Fox Business Channel, with regard to the Bill Barr's remarks in an ABC News interview where he said, and everybody's debating on, was that whole thing staged, or what was Bill Barr really irritated about Trump's tweets? And I can't give a definitive answer to that, but Bill Barr said, Trump's tweets are most unhelpful and making it impossible for me to do my job. And he's come in for a lot of attacks, one of which was Lou Dobbs, who on Wednesday night...
This is hilarious.
Yeah, in the space of 24 hours.
Yes.
We've got a little theme music to set this one up here.
What a difference a day made.
Yeah, so in 24 hours, it all changed.
4 little hours. He said that Bill Barr was doing the Lord's work and
Lord's work.
Yeah, and then 24 hours later he's talking about Bill Barr does not get what this president has to go through, and I'm deeply disappointed. And so that's what Trump fervor will do to somebody. I can't respect anything that comes out of Lou Dobbs' mouth ever again.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's very similar to, the epiphany that I had when I just continuing to see media distortions. I'm like, oh my God, they're all liars. Like almost all media is just blatantly not telling the truth.
It's so hard to find somebody who eventually doesn't wind up being a phony in this world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an awful thing to say.
Especially when when you have a stream of money coming in some way, and your opinions are based on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's what it is. Is that is he just so unprincipled or so wishy-washy, or does he get new cues from the control booth? Like,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Lou, turn it around.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah, time to act disappointed.
Bill Barr bad,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So how are we doing now?
We're still pretty good on time. So you want to go back to Bernie? We got about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Oh, all right.
So do you think Bernie could pull that same kind of because I see Trump and, as you call him, his entourage of leg humpers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of diehard Bernie people out there.
That's true.
But would people be so defend him so much as they do to Trump?
I wonder about that. And another difference is, one thing you got to say for Bernie Sanders is that he's consistent as hell.
Yeah.
He may be a little hypocritical because he's a millionaire and has some mansions and stuff like that. But in terms of what he has always preached anyway, it's pure socialism.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was enamored of the Sandinista regime in Nicaragua back in the mid-'80s, and of course, as we showed there, and he's defended the Castro regime in Cuba, and all his programs, Medicare for all, and forgiving college debt, and everything he's been proposing since he's been running for president. He walks the talk. He's a proud socialist, and he'll forthrightly tell you that. Whereas Trump's a proud fan of himself, and you never know what he's been all over the map. There was a time when he was pro-choice. There was a time when he was for pretty much universal health, government health care. We've got to take care of everybody. We've got to take care of our people. I mean, he's just reversed himself all over the place. You never know with that guy.
Yeah.
And so that's a difference. We got a committed ideologue and a committed self-worshipper. So that
I don't know which one's worse.
I know, but how that factors into their respective fan bases and how loyal they'll be to them. I don't know. It's a real possibility that this guy's going to get the nomination.
Understand Bernie at all.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an independent. He held his Senate seat for, I don't know how many years has he been in the Senate.
Oh boy,
a long time.
Yeah.
Right? And he's been an independent that whole time. Is that right?
I think first time he was elected as a Democrat,
okay.
But then declared
because so he's an independent, and the Democratic Party keeps screwing him.
Yeah.
After 2016,
there was a bitter taste in the mouth of a lot of.
They cheated him out of the
4 years ago
nomination.
Yeah.
Right. He had the nomination.
Mm-hmm.
They cheated. They literally cheated.
Yeah.
Changed their own rules. Puts Hillary Clinton up. He campaigns for her in 2016 after the primary. Once she was the nominee, he campaigned for her. He flew around the country campaigning for her, and now she's talking crap about him. Nobody likes him. Which, I don't like him, so whatever. But what the hell is wrong with these people? They keep screwing him over, and what's wrong with him that he keeps taking it? You know? Is he strong enough?
I guess he's just saying, I don't need to worry about that. Look at my fan base or something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't. But I think he should be calling out his fellow Democrats, in air quotes, on the stage about their
and then there's
inconsistencies.
Something we haven't mentioned yet. There's of course the Bloomberg factor.
Yeah.
Isn't
that fascinating?
Once again, a guy who's been kind of back and forth. He was a Republican when he first started serving as mayor of New York City, and declared himself an independent while serving as mayor. And now he's running as a Democrat.
Wouldn't that burn Bernie's ass if
And he's got bucks.
billionaire,
I mean,
man,
yeah.
billionaire beats Bernie in the primary? Like, that would really Bernie's last hurrah. It would just burn his ass. I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah, and especially since Democrats hate wealth so much.
Yeah. They don't.
A billionaire. Yeah, a billionaire bought this nomination. You know, and
No, a billionaire can only buy the Republican nomination. That's what
Yeah.
that's what they think.
yeah.
You know.
Pretty hardcore leftist that I'm Facebook friends with is behind Bloomberg. She's all, hashtag Bloomberg for president.
Weird.
And all that.
That's so strange.
Yeah, because aside from his kind of heavy-handed attitude toward things like soda pop sizes and stuff like that, he's not all that hardcore leftist.
Yeah.
And
Well, maybe that's right. Maybe your friend's like.
Yeah.
You think your friend is hard leftist?
She's pretty hard leftist,
Okay.
but I think she's using sound analytics and just kind of saying to her it looks like the train to get on because the way things are shaking out
Interesting.
with his bucks and the problems with Bernie.
I don't know, man. I just don't think a debate between Trump and Bloomberg would be fun or interesting at all.
Oh, no.
But a debate between Bernie and Trump, that's
yeah.
that's gonna be fireworks. It's a
Yeah.
ratings bonanza.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's gonna be a blast.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about the months between now and November with great trepidation.
I know. And well, Trump always he plays his reality show out, right? He's going to start taking out, the opposition. But I don't think he's been working on Bernie because he didn't expect to see Bernie coming up the ranks like this.
Yeah.
And if he does, then the Democrats will just screw him again. So Bernie's not a real threat.
Yeah.
But I think now he's going to have to take out Bernie the way he's been able to take out the others,
And one thing I got to say, I'm going to butter you up here a little bit.
Go for it.
One thing I think is really great about the libertarians, they too are forthright about their ideology and committed to it. They want to keep things on the level of ideas and principles. Everything I've seen from Jacob Hornberger, he's talking about the ideas and principles that motivate him. To my knowledge, he hasn't gotten down in the mud any ad hominem attacks on any other presidential contenders.
No, I don't think
Trump
I've-
or any of the
I don't
Dems or
think
anything.
I've seen
No, there's not time for that, according to Jacob.
Yeah.
He's got principles to convey to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like that about you guys.
I like that about
I'd like to see
Hornberger,
more
too.
conservatives be that way.
Yeah, I think that conservative values and libertarian values, you talk about the Venn diagram and that kind of stuff, I think that someone could easily be both.
I was so excited about Ted Cruz, and I still consider May 3rd, 2016 in Indianapolis as one of the places and times of great tragedy in American history.
Yeah.
Where Cruz took a look and said, I got to bow
That
out.
was Indiana, right?
Yeah, right.
Elvis, Tom Petty. And,
Yeah,
They all die after Indiana, right?
Exactly.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't know if Tom Petty.
Was Tom Petty's last concert?
I'm
in
not
Indianapolis?
sure.
Oh.
I'm sure.
Yeah, Elvis's was. You're right
Elvis's
about
was.
that. But because we were talking about the Department of Education earlier, there 5 for Freedom. That was Ted's platform.
Yeah.
He had 5 cabinet level departments and a list of 25 agencies, some independent,
Are
some
you
a part
sure
of those
that wasn't
departments.
Ron Paul's list?
It was Ted Cruz. It was on his website.
We
and
gotta
just-
we gotta revisit this.
Maybe
Ron
he
Paul
lifted
had
it
that.
from Ron. I mean, they sound rather similar because I know that
Yeah.
Ron Paul would. But the 5 for Freedom thing and the 25 for Freedom, that's conservatism. That's championing freedom.
Yeah.
That's thinking about how big government should or
Yeah.
should not be,
Yeah.
and essential questions about
Yeah.
fundamental principles.
Yeah, I think if
And yeah,
I'm sorry, I
No,
didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think if the Republican Party, if the Republican Party would actually execute their principles, you know,
Yeah.
and fight for small government and keep spending under control, I mean, I think I'd be one.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, and they do well because a lot of things would start getting straightened out.
yeah,
Yeah.
But they're big government.
Exactly. How are we doing
spenders.
now?
We're exactly at time.
Well, listen, our viewers and listeners are busy people, so we'd best not keep them any longer. But thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah.
You can't believe how much we appreciate your participation in this. And we do this fortnightly and forthrightly, so in 2 weeks we'll be back here at the Libation Station. And in the meantime, as Clyde said a little earlier, chime in. Generate a comment thread on our YouTube page or our Facebook page, or
Please do.
Yeah.
And this is a blast for me. I love having a output for political discourse and philosophical discourse. That doesn't start a fight with somebody on social media. But,
Yeah.
but if you want to start a fight on social media, by all means,
Sure.
keep it above the
Yeah.
belt. But go to patreon.com/Barney and Clyde. You can support us there. There's
Yeah.
some bonus content in there now that you won't get anywhere else. You can go to you can email us at barneyandclydeshow@gmail.com. And if you do support us, eventually we'll get an email address that has like a Barney and Clyde Show
okay.
domain and not a cruddy old Gmail. So that's what we want to
All
do.
right. And in the meantime, stay vigilant about your freedom.
See you in a fortnight.
Well, that's an interesting development.